This happened about 10 years ago, when I was a senior in college. My husband, now ex, and I lived in a decent-sized college town, off campus. Our apartment complex was a bit shabby as far as the interior went, but it was located in the middle of a nice middle-class neighborhood, which added a sense of security. It was a tiny one-bedroom apartment on the top, second floor, and the bedroom itself was quite small. Since we were both working and going to school full-time, we rarely had people over. Free time we had was spent on schoolwork or gaming. So we decided to mix things up a bit, put our bed in the living room, and turn our bedroom into a gaming/work den. Wild and crazy. All of that to say, our bed ended up being close to the front door, which normally wasn't a problem, since our complex was far enough away from campus to not be party central. Our apartment was a corner unit, so you had to go up the stairs, turn left, and keep walking to the end of the walkway to reach our door. To the right, on the opposite corner, lived our neighbor, a middle-aged Latino man who loved to clean his shotgun while sitting in the doorway, drunk, switching back and forth from English to Spanish while he told us about the life lessons he learned during a prison stint in Mexico. Anyways, one Sunday we were off work and taking advantage of sleeping in, as overworked college kids often do. All of a sudden, we were awakened from a dead sleep by a loud thump as our door practically rattled off its hinges. My ex leaps out of bed, yelling incoherently, more pissed that we'd been woken up than freaking out over whoever caused that noise. I, on the other hand, am instantly alert and immediately ask him to look out the peephole and figure out what is going on. He covers the few feet to the door in a matter of seconds, yelling the whole time about it being the weekend and assholes needing to keep it the hell down. What he saw through the peephole silenced him immediately. I watched his jaw and fists instantly clench. He wheeled around wildly, looking for something menacing to grab. At this point, I'm shaking in the bed, sheets pulled up to my chin like they're bulletproof, utterly terrified. He grabs the closest thing resembling a weapon he could find, a ridiculously large and heavy metal flashlight, unbolts the door, and swings it open in one swift motion. That's when I see it. Someone is running full speed down the walkway of our floor, headed right for our door with his shoulder braced to bust that lousy piece of wood right open. Apparently this was the guy's second attempt, and he was doing it like he meant it this time. I'm not sure if it was me screaming, my ex yelling and brandishing his weapon, or the fact that our neighbor was also standing in his doorway, brandishing an actual weapon, his beloved shotgun. But the next thing we know, the guy barely breaks stride, and instead of barreling into our door like he was planning, he banks left and launches himself down the stairs, into the parking lot, and begins sprinting towards the street. My ex, oblivious to the fact that he's barefoot and in his boxers, starts to sprint after him, but loses him in the neighborhood next to the complex. Thinking back on it now, the guy had some major cojones, or was on some serious drugs to make that much noise trying to break into a second-floor apartment in broad daylight on a weekend. Especially when there were actual houses all around us that probably had better loot than some rundown college couple's apartment. Needless to say, we added an arsenal of weaponry to choose from next to the front door, and developed a new respect for our quick-draw neighbor. I hate to think what would have happened if our bed had actually been in the bedroom, and my ex's interference had been impeded by that extra ground to cover. This incident happened a few months ago. I'm a pretty tall guy in my late 20s, so I was a little shocked that this happened to me. I was a student at UC Berkeley, and I lived close to campus and frat houses. Since summer school started, I made it a habit to study at my friend's co-op late at night and walk back home at late hours. I was walking back home at around 2:30 a.m. on a Tuesday from my friend's co-op. Nothing out of the ordinary. I usually have my laptop on me, but for some unknown reason, on this particular night, the thought of getting mugged crossed my mind with more intensity than usual, so I was a little more on edge. I had just left my friend's place. It was a residential area with a bunch of frat houses on both sides of the street. I think students call this frat row. I was about to cross the street when this red car sped down the street my way. I waited for the car to pass, but it was perhaps their speeding that rubbed me the wrong way, so stupid me decided to flip him or her off as they approached. To my surprise, the car screeched to a halt and let me pass. I was a little embarrassed at my childish gesture, so I hustled to the other side of the street. That's when I noticed two guys about half a block behind me, walking in my direction. I keep walking down Frat Row, but I look behind me once because I'm a little on edge, and I notice 3 more guys on the other side of the street, across the street from the 2 guys. At this point, to ease my paranoid mind, instead of continuing down my usual path down Frat Row, I make a right turn onto a smaller residential street, also with frat houses on both sides of the street. I look behind me again, and I notice all 5 guys follow me onto the smaller street. Flags, but I try to keep my cool, because, hey, it could just be a coincidence that they made the same turn, right? I begin to take larger steps to increase the gap between the 5 guys and myself. The frequency of looking back increases to about once every 5 seconds or so. I feel them getting closer. This is when I finally make out the appearance of one of the dudes. He is wearing a gray sweatshirt with his hood on and red shoes. He looks like a college kid, but I'm still a little uneasy. As soon as I arrive at the intersection at the bottom of the block, I turn left and begin running like hell. I didn't want to continue playing the paranoia game, so I reasoned that it wouldn't be the weirdest thing in the world if I decided to run now. Seconds after my initial dash, I hear running footsteps not far behind me. I'm thinking, holy hell, this is really happening. And I don't think much else, since I am in fight or flight mode, and the most important thing in the world right now is just to continue running. The idea of screaming for help doesn't even cross my mind. I run to the intersection without ever turning back to look behind me, and instead of turning right to run back home, I turn left into more frat houses because I am already on that side of the street, and I just want to disappear from my followers' field of vision. I'm running up this new residential street, and make what is quite possibly an incredibly stupid mistake. Instead of continuing my run up the street, I approach an apartment with doorsteps and a porch with an illuminating light. The porch had wall-like structures on the sides that made for a decent hiding place, so I figured that hiding as soon as I turned the corner would be a good strategy. However, there were no neighbors in sight, and the apartment's front door was locked. So I felt utterly cornered, and I was ready to face my followers and forfeit to them all of my shit. I stood there, hiding behind the wall-like structure on top of the doorsteps, anticipating the next few seconds. All I heard was a distant but loud "boo" from the intersection I was just at, then more silence. That was probably one of my followers trying to rattle my cage one last time. At this point, I was crouching and texting my friend whose place I just left, telling him I was being chased. He calls me and tells me to call the cops, and boy, were they the most unhelpful people I have dealt with. The dispatcher was more concerned about where the chase began rather than where I was currently hiding, and she was more concerned with the ethnicity of my followers rather than my safety. I was feeling almost just as irate as I was scared shitless now. Eventually I saw a couple of other college students walking by the intersection, so I emerged from my hiding spot, and about 3 blocks later, I was back home safe. I figured that my followers didn't want to bother with me anymore, or maybe they saw more people and didn't want to get caught. Who knows? All I know is that either A, They were just bored college students with a twisted sense of humor, and they wanted to scare the shit out of me as a prank, without really having any intention to mug me. Maybe they saw me flip off the driver in the red car and run like a little bitch to the other side of the street. Maybe they saw how extra paranoid I was and decided to mess with me. Your guess is as good as mine. Or B, they really wanted to mug me and fuck with me. In this case, I'm sad that Berkeley isn't the safe city I thought it was. Either way, this was quite the frightening experience, and I have to say that it would be quite satisfying to meet them again, turn the tables, and scare them shitless right back with a samurai sword and a bazooka, regardless of their true intentions. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and share it with your friends. I really appreciate it. So that first story, did anyone else picture that in their mind and just imagine this guy like running sideways away from the door while the other guy's aiming a shotgun at his noggin? Probably not, that was just me. But I get into these stories a little bit. But that was crazy. I would kind of wish the neighbor maybe would have got a little more involved. But in the same sense, at least he was there and stopped the whole incident from happening. And homeboy almost went streaking across the neighborhood. But I can't blame him. I ran out of my house too in my boxers forgetting, "Get it, son?" Okay, so the second story, that one could have been really bad. How he got away, I really think the guys were probably playing a prank on him. Otherwise they probably wouldn't have given up as easy. And usually college kids are pretty quick. But this guy did say he was younger and he was also in college, so he could have been very fast as well. Especially with as paranoid as he was, he might have thought he was really running for his life. Either way, I hope you all enjoyed these scary college stories. It was a different topic, and I actually didn't even plan on doing it. I just came across these stories, and they both happened to take place at college, so I thought it actually worked perfectly. Also, a quick announcement. I'm sure a lot of you noticed I didn't have a video out yesterday, but that is because I wanted to hold this video and upload it at 4 a.m. General Mountain Time. That is my new upload schedule. It will be Monday through Friday at 4 a.m. every morning. I'm still trying to think of an upload schedule for Fear Your Maker, but that schedule will be out very soon as well. I'll see you guys tomorrow for another video, and just remember, it's always scarier if it's true. Hey, utterly true. Hey, utterly true. Hey, utterly true.